going on, guys? Alex here, and today I have in front of me the Cobb Accessport version 3 for the 2015 and 2016 WRX, and the Mishimoto air intake with the optional box. And I will be installing both of these today, but first I wanted to give you guys a little just general overview of what's included in each kit. So first, starting with the Cobb Accessport, it's all very nicely boxed up. Comes with a nice owner's manual and your registration card and everything for their website. You get a couple of stickers. You get a nice blue face plate. The stock one is gray, which I'm going to be keeping because I really like that color. You get your accessories, your OBD2 port, and your cord to plug it into your computer so where you can download all of your maps. And then for the Mishimoto air intake, I chose the optional wrinkle black coating. It does come in red and I believe polished. You got your nice map sensor housing, comes with all your worm clamps, all your hardware to install, and of course I said it again, I did get the optional intake box, and I highly recommend that. It's just going to be a lot easier for your car to stay cool and keep those intake temperatures where they need to be for the most performance. And again, Mishimoto, they give you the nice little pamphlet with some of the other products, and if you do have an ECU tech, and instead of Cobb, they do give you a website to flash your free Stage 1. But fortunately, Cobb did release a Stage 1 Plus for the Mishimoto intake with the box. And I already flashed it on the Accessport itself, so I'm ready to go. So let's just get started with the install.
Alright guys, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to remove these two pop clips and pull this airbox piece up, the airbox duct. Then you're going to loosen these two nuts and loosen that nut right down there. Next, you're going to remove the 13 fender clips holding this plastic piece in place, and there will be also 2 additional screws to remove that plastic piece, and then there will be 2 plastic clips and 1 screw holding in the wheel well, and all you have to do is remove those 3. You don't have to remove it completely, and it'll fold it out of the way. And once you've gained access to the intake system, you're going to loosen the 2 worm clamps holding in the hose and loosen this 12mm bolt to loosen the rest of the exhaust system, or the intake system. Once you've removed all of your hose clamps and hoses from the bottom, you're going to go ahead and fully remove these 2 nuts and the far nut down there. Before completely removing this airbox, make sure that you fully disconnect the mass airflow sensor. To ease the removal of the airbox, undo these clips and take out the air filter and remove the airbox in pieces. To begin installing the intake system itself, take the large hose coupling and make sure the long side is facing away from the turbo. Next, remove the mass airflow sensor from the original stock housing and attach it to the Mishimoto intake as shown. Once you move to the top of the car, go ahead and install the 90-degree elbow and the mass airflow sensor housing, and don't forget to put in the mass airflow sensor and plug it in. And these are the 2 brackets you're going to use to hold that sensor down. And since I have the box, you're going to use the inside one to put on the mass airflow sensor and the outside one to hold in the box. You're going to reinstall the bolt. I used the Mishimoto supplied bolt, and they give you another bolt here to screw it into the already threaded one in the car itself. Now, I already went ahead and installed this and then uninstalled it real quick because I was having a little bit of fitment issues. The first one was the 2 screw holes to hold the lid down were too close together, so I loosened up this bolt and this one and spread it apart as far as I could and then retightened them down, and it fits like a glove. And also this where the filter sits on, it was facing towards the front of the box, so when I put the filter on, it was almost up against this window and I couldn't get the air duct to fit up against the box flush. So I loosened up this bolt, or this nut, and manipulated this with the worm clamp to get it as centered in the box as I could, and now the filter fits perfectly. As you can see, the filter is pretty much centered inside the box, and the lid does reach both of these holes. So all that's left to do is to put the lid on and put the air deck back on, and then I'm gonna relift the car up and put the under tray back on, and then flash the tune, and I'm good to go. I've had the Accessport and the intake installed for about a week now, and there's 4 things I want to cover about this review. We have rev hang, top end power, throttle response, and kind of the shakiness feeling you get between shifts that I covered in one of my very first reviews of this car. So the first thing is rev hang. Your throttle response is definitely different, and I would absolutely say it's improved. Before I had this installed, you know, the throttle response and the rev hang were a big complaint of mine, because when you barely blip the throttle, say you're in city traffic and you barely blip the throttle, the RPMs would stay at like 2,000 RPMs for almost a full second before they drop back down, and that made the car kind of difficult to drive in the city. And then on top of that, you know, your throttle response, much of it was, if you stepped on the gas 10%, the car opened up 50%. You know, your throttle response was 50%. If you stepped on it 30%, it was like 75%, and then half throttle was basically full throttle. So between that and the rev hang, it was kind of difficult to drive the car on a daily basis. Not necessarily difficult, but it just didn't feel like you were telling the car what to do, and the Cobb Accessport has definitely helped with that. The next is top end power. I love this part about this tune, because, you know, with the factory tune, you get a really, really good punch at about 2,500 RPMs up to 4,000. And though it's not that it just completely dies off, but you definitely feel it stop pulling as hard. And, you know, that necessarily wasn't a bad thing. I actually really liked that about the car. Like I said before, you know, when say you're sitting in traffic or you want to make a traffic light, if you're at 2,500 RPMs and you floor it, you're going to get most of your power right there. But when you want to rip on the car, it kind of made it not as much fun to really put your pedal into it, because you knew it was going to kind of die off at 4,000. With this tune, I would say if it's a 0 out of 10 scale and you got 10 out of 10 at 2,500 RPMs, you probably now get close to a 5, 6, or 7, but you get that 7 throughout the power band. So it doesn't necessarily feel as fast as stock, but the fact that you have power throughout the entire power band makes it so worth it. The last piece I want to talk about is kind of the shaking that you get between shifts. I know stock, this was a big, not necessarily a big problem, but again, when you were ripping on the car and you're trying to go fast through these twisty roads, you know, every time you'd shift, your car would kind of bob, and that hasn't 100% gone away, but it has definitely decreased, and it's just made for a much better driving experience. And then of course, there's really the best part about the whole thing, about the sound. God, I love it. That's worth it, honestly, to me, more than anything else. So that was like second gear, 4,000, 4,500 RPMs, drop it to the floor, and it did put me back in my seat. Again, the top end power, I love on this car, and I know that once I eventually go stage 2, that is only going to increase, which is just awesome. So anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching my install and kind of watching my quick little review about the Accessport and the air intake. If you have any questions, of course, leave them below. I try to answer every single comment. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.